Welcome to Football at the Bar. This is your host, TA.
And this is G-Money.
And we are ready to talk some football. Appreciate for all of you to be here with us. Very quickly, for all of you guys, please subscribe, download, like, show us some love, because we come out here and we do this every single week
he said
for y'all. And before we get started, let me tell you something. You see, my glass is full. You've been sipping a little bit already.
I've been sipping.
So what you been sipping on?
Duncan Taylor,
and I'm sitting over here.
You know, in the blended Scotch family.
And I got some new shit. I got some Brastad.
You know,
I don't even know what it is, but it tastes good. Brastad.
I know, with your bougie ass, I already know. That's what you do. Okay, but I'm sure that is delicious.
With that being said, G-Money, this has been a hell of a motherfucking week that we got a chance
Boy,
to sit over here and
you have not lied. That has been a hell of a week. So, you know, I think both of us agree that we want to talk about these Ravens, right? So, okay, I'm going to let you hit it off. I want to talk about these Ravens, but what do you want to say first?
Well, when we talk about the Ravens, what we have to talk about is what we just saw this week playing against the Bengals. And I know the quarterback got hurt, and it's all good. But at the end of the day, is before the quarterback got hurt.
Yeah, you talking about Burrow?
Of course, before Burrow got hurt, what we did see is that the Ravens took full control of that game. So what we saw in that game was that the Ravens are literally in full control of their team, full control of their play, and ready to really make that Super Bowl run for the very first time.
You know, the funny thing is, it was a real twist of irony, because yes, they won the game, and yes, they won the game convincingly. And however, it was still a tragic moment because his number one target, which is, I think it was Anderson, right?
No, Andrews.
Andrews, excuse me. Let's see.
Mark Andrews, the liquor is always on you.
Okay. But Andrews got hurt, and it seems like it's season ending.
We found out it's not season ending. He actually will be back for the playoffs. Yes.
Okay, so look at you on the waiver wire.
I'll be on that shit.
You on it.
Yes.
So thank God for that, because what was really, I would say, the thing that came forefront to my mind was they won that game with convincing fashion, but their tight end, their number one Pro Bowl tight end, is Lamar Jackson's like
a snuggle blanket. It's like a safety blanket.
It's a safety blanket. He got hurt. So if they're able to get him back within, let's say, a 2 or 3 weeks time span, then they could go. But
here's what the twist is. I have Andrews on my fantasy team, and he ain't been doing shit this year. So the success of the team is not predicated upon him.
I agree with
the success of the team is always rested on the shoulders of Lamar Jackson. And the reality is that Lamar Jackson is maybe the catalyst, is maybe the igniter, but the reality is this is a total team effort. And to win any Super Bowl, you have to have a total team effort.
Yes.
And so the Ravens defense is phenomenal. He has far more weapons than he's ever had, even with Andrews out.
Yes.
Because he has OBJ, he has his rookie Flowers. And he has a great ensemble.
He has Bateman.
But he has an ensemble to sit over and get it done with or without Andrews.
I agree.
So what we saw is that we know the Bengals aren't going to be a threat anymore in the AFC North. We saw with the Steelers sitting over here, that offense is so stagnant, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that they are not really a true threat. And then we sit over and see the Browns. They just lost Deshaun Watson, that they're not going to be a true threat. So this is that the pathway has been cleared out for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens to sit over and make that trek to the Super Bowl.
You know what? The only thing that I would say to you is that trek has been made in theory. In theory, yes. But I would have an argument that I will probably give to you a little bit later on, that I think that the Cleveland Browns probably could be a disruptor to that let's say rainbow of us just taking a trek road to the playoffs, or I'm sorry, to the Super Bowl. The thing that I will say is I agree with you, is yes, Lamar Jackson has proven by winning this game and just by doing the math, and he has a a pretty clear road to winning the AFC North, and he has to win the AFC North to really have a puncher's chance in it. Him losing Andrews is a big deal. If he's able to get Andrews back, that's also a big deal. This is the first time that I think in his existence, in his career, that he has had all phases of the
total team. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because every Super Bowl caliber winning team, the ones that win, they win because they have offense, they have special teams, and they have defense.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time I think in the entire semblance of Lamar Jackson to where he has a formidable, potentially, it's a little bit of a tweeter, but they have a potentially formidable offense coupled with a genuine, formidable defense and a solid special teams. This is the first time. So this is like, okay, we're gonna let this baby go out into the world now.
Well, this is what I see. This is what I see. What I see is one of the things is we've heard perennially for the last 2 years of Lamar Jackson's career that he is injury prone.
And he has been.
Well, look at this. In 2018, he's missed 10 games. Joe Burrow, by the end of this season, since 2018, will have missed, I believe, 14 or 16 games. So when you talk about injury prone, it's funny how that argument is never used against Joe Burrow. It's only used against Lamar Jackson. Now, I will tell you this. The quintessential opportunity that they have is that them playing a full game. What we found is their greatest challenge is not sitting over here and not being good enough. It's about them playing full games because this team right here at 7-3 is the only team that's been 7-3 that has a point differential that would bar them from the Super Bowl. There have been 2 other teams that have a similar point differential, and they were both 10-0. This team is 7-3, and they lost those 3 games. Those are 3 games that they should have won. Those are 3 games that they were winning into the fourth quarter. Those 3 games that they were playing a subpar opponent that they found a way to lose the game. So that's going to be their greatest catalyst and the greatest thing that's going to be a snare in their ass. But the reality is we looked just a couple weeks ago as the AFC North being the most challenging, most difficult division to sit over and win. And through attrition of injuries with Burrow, with Deshaun Watson, and with the ineptitude of the Pittsburgh Steelers, that the pathway has been opened up for them to at least get to the playoffs, have a very high playoff seed, especially with Kansas City just losing in Monday night, and positioning themselves to actually be in a favorable position to win.
You know, it's so funny. You slipped in how basically the Pittsburgh Steelers have basically been doing it by hook or by crook, right? And so that's a very interesting slant on everything. And we're going to touch on that because we need to talk about their quarterback a little bit. We need to talk about Pickett and then maybe even compare him to other quarterbacks that we also think that are shitty. But just to close out the whole aspect of Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, what I would say is that this is in agreement. I'm in agreement with you. This is the first time that where Lamar Jackson really has a chance to just say, I'm going to put my stamp on this goddamn thing. And he can do it. He really can. He just needs ultimately now to just win out. He needs to win out to where they get at least the number 1 or 2 seed in the playoffs. And you know what? And they have a realistic chance because now they've gone through the gauntlet and the AFC North is atrocious. And we're going to talk about that. So I actually want to talk about what happened, right? So we saw, guess what? You know what? Joe Burrow went down. Joe Burrow went down for season ending. So now
So they're out of the fucking way.
They're out of the
Fuck
way.
the Cincinnati Bengals. It was a great story while it lasted, but
While
they're
it
done.
lasted, but they're done.
And not only they're done for this season, they're done moving forward because they're going to lose their number 2 receiver, Higgins, who's going to be going off to
Yeah, because
free
he's on a
agency.
contract year.
Right, he's on a contract year, so he's out of here. So at the end of the day is currently how it sits, they're absolutely done.
And you wanted to talk about Pickett, right?
What about Pickett? See, Pickett came out in the preseason and he was absolutely destroying it. I was one of those suckers that stood over and said, oh my God, Pickett's about to come in here and do the deal. Right. I almost drafted him in my fantasy. Thankfully, I had the wherewithal to say, let's wait and see. But there are 2 quarterbacks in the league that are playing the absolute worst outside of DeVito from the Giants. You have Pickett and you have Zach Wilson. These 2 individuals absolutely stink. Pickett, very worst statistical quarterback who's ever played in the Super Bowl. Now the question is it Pickett and he doesn't just have the skills or the ability to be in the NFL, or is it his offensive coordinator that simply can't get it done? I believe it's a combination of both, but what do you think?
Okay, so if I were to, like, let's say hedge bets, I would really put more on Canada. So I think it was his like John Canada or Jim Canada, whatever. His last name is Canada.
He needs to take his monkey ass back to Canada.
He needs to be fired, and he needs to be fired yesterday.
Yes.
But the thing is, their head coach is not going to fire him.
Well, it's not the head coach. The head coach is really doesn't make that choice. It's actually the general manager and the owners.
No, but
and they have an organization that's only had 3 head coaches in its entire existence, and it's one of the longest lived franchises in NFL history. You're talking about close to 100 years.
Okay.
So with that being said, when they only have 3 coaches, they are not in the habit or in the they don't traditionally fire coaches. They should fire this one, but I understand why they're not.
Here's what I will say. Who is the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Tomlin.
Okay. So Mike Tomlin is a person who does not fire his subordinates. He doesn't do it. So what you have is, this is a moment of stubborn ignorance. What he needs to do is he needs to realize that his offensive coordinator is inept. We're focusing on the wrong thing is what I will really tell you.
Well,
Pickett is a terrible quarterback right now because of what he has been given. He, in his preseason, to your own attest, he had looked really good in the preseason.
So is he terrible, or is the plays that he's been given?
It's the plays that he's been given.
Okay.
So what I would say is that they do really marginal plays. They run 5-10-yard hitches, and they run crossing routes, and they try to run the ball, and it's very obvious runs. And so what they're trying to do is, you're not compromising the defense when I'm in a cover 2, a cover 3, or if I decide to blitz you, I already know where your guys are coming from. So what you're forcing me to say is that I'm taking Johnson or I'm taking my wide receiver Pickens, and I'm just saying, I want you guys to beat them. And guess what? When it's predictable, you're not gonna. And they haven't. And the only reason that they've won in spite of that is because, you know what? He's a defensive coordinator at the end of the day. So he just muddies the game and just makes the game so uncomfortable for a defense. So then I have 1 or 2 or 3 plays that ends up ruling the day. But that offensive coordinator is trash.
Well, here's what the thing is. I believe that there is a method to the madness. The offensive coordinator is not doing its thing. And the obvious question is, why aren't they making a change? Hold on, why aren't they making a change? Well, here's what a twist is. It's because there's a culture there. And if you interrupt that culture, what can happen is an inept team that's overperforming now can begin underperforming and maybe not even make the playoffs because he rocked the cradle.
Yeah.
And so what I believe is Tomlin has the wherewithal to say, yes, I do unequivocally understand Canada is not the man for the job. And so what he's saying is saying, okay, I got to make a change at the end of the season, no matter what. But be it that we're now they were 6-3 before the beginning of this past Sunday. Now they're 6-4, but still in the playoff hunt, still in the playoff standings, that we don't need to rock the boat in terms of making a change there to where that culture changes, to where that mindset of we have to overcome, we have to
adapt.
just not quite adapt, but just we have to level up, even though we have these deficiencies.
Okay, so you know what's interesting about what it is that you just articulated, right? Because you're right. That is the bottom line. That is what is going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
However, when they hear from their players like Najee Harris, who is basically like,
but he wasn't talking before you talk about Najee Harris. He was talking about players like Pickens, who are more self-absorbed about their individual stats rather than the team success.
No.
When you're in the playoff picture and you're bitching and moaning about people being selfish,
I'm gonna disagree in this one regard. We don't know what Najee Harris was really, who and what he was really talking about, because what he ultimately said was, he said, our offense is shitty. Period, end of story.
But that wasn't the question. The question was, do you think people are sitting over here playing based off of for the team or for individual?
People want to draw conclusions about what Najee Harris said. So regardless.
Are you drawing a conclusion?
I'm saying that the conclusion cannot be drawn that he was directly talking about his quarterback, because
Pickens, the wide receiver, not the quarterback, not Pickett.
Yeah, but
I get a mix up too.
No, but what I'm telling you is that whether or not he was talking about Pickens or Pickett, he was not talking about the players that he's playing with, and that also goes.
Who do you think he was talking about?
I think he was talking about the offensive coordinator and the head coach. Ooh. That's who he was talking about. Those are shots
fired, but
exactly.
You're disrespecting the legend.
You have to understand. If I play a game and I'm going to practice every day, day in, day out with a guy, and this is the guy who's going to deliver me the ball, and this is the guy who's also going to be an alternate option for me, I'm not necessarily going to talk smack about them. What I'm saying is that if we're failing, I'm saying that you guys are failing. That's what he was really speaking about. Most of the media wanted to draw a conclusion to say that he was talking about Pickett or Pickens. He was talking about his quarterback or his receiver, and the fact that they're not getting on the same page, and the fact that the results were that they weren't getting down the field. But if you really, think about it from an analytical perspective, and I'm saying it with my chest. I'm saying it. I'm saying no. What he's saying is that our scheme is not efficient, and you guys are not putting us in a position to win.
And you know what? I like what you're saying. You actually have shown me a different perspective of what could possibly be the meaning of Najee Harris, and I love that. That's good shit. I see where you're coming from. That he was saying that it wasn't actual players; it was the coaches that were coming from a very selfish.
Go deep. We're going deep diving.
But here, you know what I want to go deep on right now is I want to go deep on, speaking of Pickett. And speaking of his ineptitude, is just the ineptitude of two specific quarterbacks, Pickett and Zach Wilson. Oof. Probably two of the worst quarterbacks the NFL has ever seen. And I will tell you
statistically,
and I will sit over and tell you this. I told my son the day Zach Wilson was drafted. And you remember they were standing on that stage. It was during, if I'm not mistaken, it was during the COVID year. They're standing on the stage, and my man did the hook 'em horns, and he was over here looking all scary and all that shit. I said,
Listen,
"You see this motherfucker right here? This motherfucker can't get it done." And I told him then, and what we've seen is exactly what I said from that standpoint. This man cannot relate to his fellow players, his wide receivers, and his running backs. He was literally drafted number 2 based off of a pass that he threw in his team workouts with the shorts, no pads on, and the player that he was throwing the ball to didn't even have a defender on him. And they tried to compare him to Mahomes. And really what that was to circumvent Fields out of that number 2 position after he had just got finished getting in
because
Trevor Lawrence's
because you know
ass.
they love to just throw a lollipop to somebody.
Lollipop,
and be like,
lollipop, lollipop.
You the best eating things in sliced bread.
And Trevor Lawrence had sit over here and just got his ass handed to him by Fields. And they were trying to sit over here and bring Fields
Go ahead and preach on it. Go ahead.
And they pushed this motherfucker up. And let me tell you something, the GM that picked him number 2 in the draft should be fired for that absolutely abomination of a pick. But you have an individual who played out of Utah, BYU, who had no business even being in the NFL, let alone the number 2 pick. And we've seen that he's been benched 3 times in his very short career. This is a dude that's absolutely egregious.
All right.
Pickett is on his way. If they don't change that offensive coordinator, he is on his way to beginning.
It's kind of it feels very like, let's say, Bill Belichick-esque, because you know how like Bill Belichick is like ruining the Mac Jones's whatever career that he could have.
I think Mac Jones is a stone cold too.
Yeah, he's a stone cold mystery right now.
Cold.
Right, but you had to say, yeah, Bill, you might be doing.
But they're all in the same bucket. You can throw all 3 of those motherfuckers in.
I agree.
In
the blender. Yeah. So out of that whole blender of shittydom, that whole blender of shittiness of quarterbacks, I would say that Wilson is probably the only one that I would say is he's just straight up shitty.
So straight up shitty.
He's just not good.
The other 2 could possibly be NFL. Like Wilson can't even be a backup. That's how bad he is.
The thing is that's interesting about, and you broke it down all the way, bro, and I appreciate you. Listen, Pickett is crappy right now, but what we don't know is that if they fire his offensive coordinator, will he be able to pick up offense and be able to now be accurate? Because
we saw some greatness in the preseason.
Yeah, and we saw some ability. It's just he has no creativity around him. So now it's like, okay, if you don't have any creativity around him, what you have proven is that you're not great.
Great point.
You need coaching.
But that's all right. Everybody can't be great.
Correct.
So we can't hold everybody up to that threshold.
Wilson, on the other hand, Wilson is like,
throw that baby out with the bathwater. Get that motherfucker up out of here.
You are dumpster fire.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
But guess what? It's so funny. We talk about individual players as being dumpster fire.
Yeah.
But the reality is that teams as an absolute entirety, as an absolute whole, are dumpster fire as well. And we've had the opportunity to see this past week to where we've gone past any type of equivocation on if they can do this, if they can perform, if they can be great, if the coaches that lead these teams can continue. And we kind of talked about that last week, but we're talking about the Chargers who have shown their ineptitude.
That's a great example. That's an excellent
The Chargers
example.
And the Commanders, when the Commanders lose to a team, lose to a quarterback that is literally a third string, undrafted free agent, motherfucker that still lives with his mama in the basement. And you lost to this motherfucker when people are having career days based off of playing this motherfucker, and they lost to him at home.
Yeah, you talking about the Commanders wetting the bed like way they did?
Ron Rivera and Brandon Staley.
Let me just.
I will personally kick them in the ass and get them the fuck up out of here.
And let me just say
absolutely out of here.
For the record, look, every Tom, Dick, and Harry in fantasy was like, oh yeah, let me Big Hal.
I played that motherfucker. Cost me money.
Let me Big Hal against the Giants. And the Giants have been getting stomped on by everybody. And then you decided to have the motherfucker who should have been in The Sopranos beat you.
Let me tell you.
Really?
Let me tell you a funny stat.
What is going
As
on
bad
in the
as
world?
DeVito is for the Giants, he has the same number of touchdowns in a limited sample size as fucking Zach Wilson does for the entire year.
Wow.
So it shows you how bad Zach
Wow.
Wilson is. But nonetheless, these
Well,
two.
I would say DeVito, he performed that day. And you know what?
He had 9 sacks. So let's not say
No,
because
they lost that game because of their defense. The Giants' defense decided that in that moment, that the Giants' defense decided that they were going to outperform how.
Right. No, but here at the end of the day is when you sit over here and have a team like Washington that has the type of weapons that they have. They have 2 very rock solid running backs. They have 3 very rock solid wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
They have a defense that's not great, but is not abysmal. And they lose to a team like the Giants that falls solely on the shoulders of their
Offensive coordinator.
No, not just their offensive coordinator. Their offensive coordinator. No,
and
stop.
their head coach.
No. And there goes the story. There goes the bullshit that you almost suckered me into. It has nothing to do with Bieniemy.
You know what?
It is Rivera that's out of here, and it's a defensive coordinator. But don't sit over and tell me.
I'm not
don't
excited
sit over
about
here and tell
hating
me.
on Bieniemy, but I will say this: is that Eric Bieniemy, my dog, when you, let's say, average somewhere between 2 to 3 touchdowns for the past 2 or 3 weeks, and then you allow yourself to lose to the Giants at home, no less, you need to take a little bit of heat for that.
So let me tell you something. His offense had nothing to do with DeVito having a career day. Is it fair to say?
The answer to the question is yes.
Thank you.
But the answer to the question is yes. But then what I would say to you is, as a retort, in my fancy way, is I would say, why did you? So if they scored 4, why didn't you score 5? What I would say is,
did you see the egregious? Did you see the egregious interceptions that man threw? Hey, Bieniemy can only tell you what the fuck to do. He can't actually do it for you. Is it fair to say? And we have to remember, Bieniemy had to leave the very best quarterback who ever did the motherfucker to go to a 5th round quarterback that nobody in the league other than the Commanders thought was an actual starting quarterback.
Okay, well then church on the move.
And guess what? He went there and
okay.
Do you know the Commanders quarterback stats? He is the number 2 in the league in terms of throwing yards.
Man, you've been paying attention. Look at
That's
you.
what I do. I pay attention because I do a podcast called Football at the Bar.
Oh,
so I pay attention to football.
Yeah.
And so when you have a quarterback like Sam Howell, who was absolutely looked over, passed over by the entire league, and then forced the Bieniemy to come there, and then Bieniemy turns this man into the number 2 thrower in the entire league. We can't sit over and look at Bieniemy and says he hasn't done his job. The reality is this team loses because of the head coach, because they come out ill-prepared. They come out not performing in the first halves of every single game that they've ever lost. And they've gotten outscored 2-1. You follow what I'm saying? Now, when you look at Kenny Pickett, again, a quarterback that cannot do the deal. He has the very worst stats of any quarterback ever. Kenny Pickett, with any quarterback that's had 500 throws or more, he has the worst stats of any quarterback ever in the history of the NFL. He only scores a touchdown at a 2% rate. The very worst record, the very worst score of any quarterback ever in NFL history. Now, I wouldn't say it's all on the quarterbacks. What I will say is that their coaches are inept. Kenny Pickett, his offensive coordinator, as we've discussed, is absolutely inept. As Sam Howell, his head coach, and his defensive coach has put him in very bad positions. And at the end of the day, is Kenny Pickett's a 1st round pick. Sam Howell's a 5th round pick.
All
So
right.
let's keep the shit clean.
See, and you know what? And I'm gonna bring it all the way back center because when you brought up Pickett, yes, Pickett is ultimately at the end of the day what I would say that is the true, let's say, when we're going to the nitty gritty of it, is regardless of my criticisms about his offensive coordinator, at the end of the day, you have a 6'3" guy and you have a 6'1" guy that you can throw the ball to, and then you have basically two phenomenal running backs that you can also outlet to. So you are shitty. Now, when you try to conflate that into the analysis of the Commanders, the Commanders have a scenario to where they have a litany of weapons. They just need to have their defense come with them.
So speaking of that, then what's your excuse for the Chargers, who have a litany of weapons, like you said, who have a great defensive team?
A great
and then
analogy.
You have the Chargers that are
analogy.
not getting it done, just like the Commanders are not getting it done. So you tell me, what is your excuse for the Chargers?
The Chargers are like what I always
don't say the Clippers. I don't even want to hear that. I don't want to hear the Clippers and the Cloppers.
I won't say the word. I won't say the word. But the Chargers find a way to lose.
Why?
Because
is it coaching?
Yes. 1,000%.
Are you starting to see the weave?
No,
I'm weaving up
10
in this motherfucker.
Yeah, I know, Dr. Mindbender. And those who watch G.I. Joe know who I'm talking about. Look at Dr. Mindbender. Yes, the thing is about the Chargers is they find a way to lose because they have this absurd amount of talent. They have this conglomerate, this
and they have a hoe as a coach
of talent.
They have a hoe as a coach.
Yeah,
he's a hoe.
But not only is a hoe, but he's, you know what? He's better than Pigeon Nuts McGee.
Yeah, barely. Yeah, and he's a little bit better than Pigeon
because
Nuts,
at least, you know what? He will go on it for fourth down. Pigeon Nuts McGee will find a way to not go on for fourth down, but I digress.
Hey, you gotta bring it. You got to bring it to the Raiders. You just let us live.
My brother, you're right. I digress.
You did digress.
However, keeping in with the Chargers, though, the thing that I've noticed about them is that they just don't understand that there is a time and space and place. Time, space, place. I do not need to go for it in certain instances when the game is at a critical juncture. So how about...
So you think that's how they win?
I think that's how they lose.
Okay,
they lose.
Yes, and so you were focused on how they lose.
I think
what I do know is how people win. And we have individuals there that don't know how to win. And so when you don't know how to win, guess what happens? You don't win. And this is a coach that doesn't have the testicular fortitude to know how to win. And so that's what we're finding is a problem with the Chargers. We have a coach that doesn't know how to win. And so when you have a coach like Staley that doesn't know how to win, all he knows is analytics. All he knows is X's and O's. He doesn't actually know the actual game.
Okay.
This is a motherfucker that sits over here and can't win. And that's what we're seeing now in Staley and Rivera.
Yeah, Rivera. Yeah.
Rivera, get both of them are out of here. And that's a beautiful thing. They're out of it, just like we talked about last week.
See, because you know what, and to your general point, right? What you're telling me is the real is coming out.
Yeah, it is. And that's a great point. And you know what's coming out with a bunch of these teams, or with a specific team, is that Russ. Everybody thought Russ was done. Everybody thought Russ couldn't do it anymore.
Russ was done.
Everybody thought Russ was done. And what we saw was that his previous coach, Hackett, didn't have a clue on what the fuck he was doing.
That is true.
Didn't have any leadership skills to sit over and lead Russ to a place of success. And then they have a coach that does, and now Russ is looking like a motherfucking magician sitting over here juggling this shit and performing at a level that's not great. That's not Hall of Fame, a high-level functional quarterback.
Yeah, I think Russ is getting his respect back because, look, last year, and I would say even maybe the past 2 years, because I think he's been with the Broncos for maybe the 2 seasons right now. Russ was terrible.
He was.
Here's the thing that's interesting about Russell Wilson, right? Yes, I almost want to give a lot of love to his coach right now because you know what? He got him there. He got him to where he said, "All right, I can't be worried about Sierra anymore. I can't be worried about her feelings and whether or not we popular or none of that."
Without a doubt.
Said, "I gotta be in the business of football."
Yep.
And you know what? And his coach got him there, and he decided to give a fuck about the grinding.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that when we talked a lot about coaches and the leadership of men and how you need to lead men. And so I got to give a little bit of flowers to him just because he just decided that he was going to say, I'm going to lead this team. And now I'm not going to be super uber duper excited about his production, because I think that it's more them winning. It's been more about their defense deciding to play at a Pro Bowl level.
Whoa. This is the same defense that gave up 70. So we can't ever sit over and put one man's success upon a defense that gave up 70. How many times in your life have you seen a team give up 70?
How about this?
No, answer that question.
Never.
Never. So let's not ever talk about this is a defense that is the determining factor of this man being successful or not.
Okay, so you know this has been a couple of times in here. You told me that I've been insane, right? You know, and I'm bad shit, right?
Right.
Okay, so then let's just go with me with my bad shit.
Okay, let's roll with it.
What I'm going to say is that look. That defense prior to this year and them getting mollywopped by the Miami by 70, they were pretty much a respectable defense. It might have even been like arguably in the top, let's say 15 in terms of like defenses.
Top 10.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Low key.
Okay.
All right. So what I think that has happened is their head coach just said, you guys got mollywopped by 70. You know what? If I'm a coach, that is the most beautiful thing that could ever happen because everybody got humbled.
I like that point.
Everybody
got dialed in.
Everybody got humbled and everybody's nuts got smashed by a hammer.
Oh.
Yes, they did.
That doesn't feel
when
good.
you lose by 70, there ain't nothing but a bang, bang, boom.
Hey,
bap, bap, bap.
The hammer on the nuts felt so good.
Hey, I'm blap. Okay, so we all in our feelings and we over here crying and blood and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that what happened was,
okay,
as a reaction to that, them coaches got in there.
Okay.
And they said, guess what, motherfuckers?
Mm-hmm.
We not about to do that no more.
Okay.
And they decided to address themselves at the party and say, regardless of what our record is, we're not going to be these hoe cakes.
So what's that have to do with Russ?
So Russ he fell into the same lane. He just said, guess what? They think you're shitty and they think I'm shitty. So let me not be shitty.
Do you think the two were correlated?
I do. I think,
What I'm saying is the perception of Russ being shitty actually had less to do with Russ and more to do with the defense. And so now that the defense has gotten better, but Russ is still performing in the same fashion, that now individuals are sitting over here.
Very articulate breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
What I would say is it is a combination of both. I really genuinely believe if I'm looking at the Denver Broncos, even though as a Raider fan, I hate them and I want their failure to happen at all times.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think happened is that their defense decided to care
Mm-hmm.
and that they will never be embarrassed like that ever again, ever. And then conversely, that also reflected on Russ. And then Russ said, I am going to be a winning quarterback.
Can I ask you a quick question? If the Raiders won 4 in a row, what would you do?
I would be.
You would sit over here and skeet everywhere, just everywhere, just skeet everywhere, right?
No,
and you would be sitting over saying they're going to the Super Bowl, right?
No,
If I fair to say, if I lie, if the Raiders won 4 in a row, what would you do?
I cannot confirm, nor deny. I would just say that is a likely.
We would be like, whoa, gee, whoa.
However,
and so my point
I'm objective. I'm a
journalist.
I'm a journalist. As an objective journalist, I would observe them with glee. Okay, now
to say the least.
To say the least. However, yes, yeah. But look, getting to the point of you talking about Russell Wilson, I just think that Russell has got tired of the noise, just like his defense got tired of the noise. And then as football players, he decided, I remember, I'm a football player. And so let me get into the grime of it and I'm going to win. He found a way to be efficient when it mattered most. And I got to give Russell Wilson credit for that. I can't fight him for that.
Is this the Russell Wilson of the good old days? Or is this a newfound Russell Wilson? Is really my point that I'm trying to figure out.
Okay.
Like people thought that Russell Wilson, the Russell Wilson we all knew to love and to revere, was gone. He was nowhere to be found anymore.
I think that what it is he's found himself. And I just think that at the end of the day, what I respect about him is that he does care about winning.
So what you're saying is it was his choice to get there, not the coach that did.
No,
I think. So was it on Russ or was it on the coach?
This is another question that you're posing, which is a very interesting question. And I think that it is an also and not an either or. This is not a did your coach influence you and then as a result you decided to produce. Okay. It's an also and. Your coach influenced you and you got tired of losing and you decided I'm going to care about it. And boom, look at what we did.
Well, this is a question since, that was unbelievable. He said it wasn't a
either or.
It wasn't an either or.
It wasn't an either or. It was an also and.
Also, that right there is some real philosophical shit right there.
Game with all caps. G-A-M-E.
That's big game. So my question with you is, since you have game with the big G, what I got a question for you is Dak and his performance. Is it MVP-ish? Like the show Black-ish? MVP-ish? Or is it just he feasts off of boo-boo teams? You got to tell me. I got to know where we at with Dak, because I want to love Dak. I want to sit over here and embrace and wrap my arms around the man. But is this MVP-ish performance that he's having this year, or is he only having those type of phenomenal performances with teams that we know are boo-boo?
So here's my answer. I would think that Dak Prescott in the regular season will always be irrelevant or I would say the results should be irrelevant
To what?
to judging him.
Okay.
Because
Judging his abilities or judging his
judging
him like what his result quantifies
all right,
to.
So when we talk about winning quarterbacks, what we're really ultimately analyzing is, do they have the ability to produce when in dire situations?
So what you're telling me is you have a sense of how big Dak's balls are.
No, I'm not gonna judge his balls.
I was just saying. You said testicular
I
fortitude.
know, but listen, anybody who wants to be a quarterback who is a successful quarterback in the NFL probably has pretty
Big
decent
cojones.
balls.
Their balls are sizable.
The only one who doesn't is the former quarterback of the Raiders, which is Pigeon Nuts. But other than that, you know what? In order for you
we
to
got to take it back to the Raiders. Jesus Christ!
I know.
Okay, anybody else but them? Okay,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Because I do love it so. But the thing is, what I would say is, to your direct question,
yes.
I think that Dak Prescott is just a producer. What he has yet to prove is, can he do it in the biggest moments, in the biggest arenas? That is the only thing.
Is it the arena? Is it the size of the moment? Or is it the quality of the team?
It is 1,000% the size of the moment.
So you say if he has the moment is on the big stage and he's playing against the Cardinals or he's playing against the Panthers, that he's going to shrivel? Or is it you could have nobody looking? It could be a game in the mix of 10 unbelievable games, and he just has to be one of them, but he's playing against the San Francisco 49ers. Is he going to win that game? Or is he going to still lose that game?
So me responding to your point of view, right, is I think that Dak Prescott needs to perform against a monumental team when it matters. What I'm really saying is, just like it was for Steve Young, is a classic example of what it is that I'm talking about. Steve Young did not get his credit until he was able to beat the Cowboys, right? He had to do the deed in a meaningful game. Dak Prescott has yet to experience a meringful game to where he has come out victorious.
So if he wins one, he's MVP-ish.
No, I would never say that. I would say that would make him a legitimate quarterback. Before I go to the Chiefs, because
who said we talk about the Chiefs? What I want to talk about is the Eagles, because at the end of the day is we just saw yesterday the Eagles stood over and got in the Chiefs' ass, and we have to. And guess what? I'm the Chiefs fan, so I have to sit over here and be honest. And I'm honest and I'm real with myself.
Let's see. I'm gonna look you in your whole eyeball socket. Are you really telling me that you feel as though that they got in their ass though?
They crawled up in the gas. So you know why they did it? Is they crawled up in that asses because motherfuckers on the Chiefs didn't convert. The question is really did the Eagles sit over here and take that step and be the first team to circumvent and to step above the Chiefs and be the perennial?
The answer to the question is yes. The Eagles did one thing. And what they did was they just tried to establish themselves as we are the team to beat. And I think that they did that.
They did that on the Chiefs' home field. Now, here's what the thing is. This is why I don't sit over here and feel that the Eagles sit over here and did something absolutely mind-boggling and
they won the game.
enchanting.
No,
At the end of the day is Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Remember that motherfucker's name, MVS. Sat over here and tricked it off in a ball that was in his hand, just like Quentin Johnson did, that fucked it off of the Chargers, and sit over here and missed the game. So, missed the catch. The catch. That, let me tell you something. My 15-year-old son could sit over and make that catch. I could make that catch at a 46-year-old man.
No.
And that he didn't make. So with that being said is Eagles, as you guys get excited, the Eagle fans get excited, they sit over and puffing up their chests. You only won because one goofy missed a catchable pass.
Now, see, this to me sounds like this is you and your Kansas City love being all in your feelings.
No. We saw it together. He missed the catchable pass.
I understand that, but the narrative that you just displayed was about, guess what? A Chief dropped a pass and an Eagle caught a pass, and you were all in your butthurt feelings about it.
Why do I have to be in my butthurt feelings? Why can't I sit over here and just simply express what actually happened?
Because your team lost.
Hey,
they lost.
You know what? I love the game of football.
LOST. They lost. So, okay, fine.
Hey, you know about that. You understand what it feels like. I understand.
So let me be a gentleman.
Thank you.
And a scholar.
Thank you.
Your team lost.
They lost. But guess what? We might have lost the battle, but we ain't lost the war.
Yeah.
And guess what? When we go to war, are you really willing to bet against the Chiefs?
If I'm going to be illogical, I would say that the Chiefs are probably going to be there. I just don't know. They don't know either.
If they are there, are you going to bet against them?
Yes, because I believe in the Eagles more than them.
You do?
I do.
Okay. Yeah. And you believe in the Raiders more than the Chiefs too, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, okay. With that being said, it's time for us to go to bed.
Okay. Boo and boo-hoo to you.
Hey, to finish this off, I got some fantasy for you, and I don't have a lot because next week is not that great. But I will tell you this. If any of y'all play DFS, it's one single game that I feel that you should be attacking, and that's the fucking Chiefs against the Raiders. Because even though he loves the Raiders and he believes they're going to come the one thing that I will tell you is the Chiefs have caught that ass whooping against the Eagles. And let me tell you something. You know how Mahomes be. And so Mahomes is going to be sitting over here and attacking this Raiders defense. And the Raiders defense is strong. So I think the Chiefs are going to sit over and come with it. Who I'm putting my money on in this next upcoming week is Mahomes and the Chiefs. So that's my deal. G, who do you think is going to do?
You know what? I'm picking the same game, but what I will say is now it's gonna be like we gang banging. We gonna gang bang, bang 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 bang. Okay, because what I'm gonna say is, I'm expecting Kelsey to have a really good game against us, and he might be the difference. But I'm also expecting Josh Jacobs to show improve and get in that ass on the Chiefs. And I'm really expecting him out of DFS. He's going to do it. Now, the risky picks is really any Raider receiver. Any Raider receiver. I don't care if I know Devontae, but we all know who's throwing the ball to us. So that's a mystery.
Stone cold.
But Josh Jacobs is going to be a star.
So the stack is Mahomes with, I would say, Watson and Kelsey, and then run it back with Jacobs. That's a phenomenal stack. Yes.
Yep. And we don't know who's going to win that game. Bang, bang.
So can you give me some love on that?
Oh, I'll give it to you.
With your drunk ass.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate it. It's been nothing but love. Hey, see y'all next week. subscribe,
At the bar,
download,
baby.
love, like Church on the Moon.
ATB, we all we got.